Yeah, I'm often asked, well, what if it was all just a big conspiracy? And you know, what if there was a conspiracy to put the canon together, or what if there were, and did that happen in the 5th century? And what if there was a conspiracy to alter the texts of the New Testament to misrepresent what Jesus said? And it's an interesting question, but I think it entirely misunderstands the nature of what Christianity was like in the first 3 centuries. Maybe it makes for a decent novel and a great movie, but it doesn't make for very good history. Because, in fact, the very thing, and I sort of cut my teeth on the conspiracy theories, and the very thing that many of my students find disturbing, there's thousands of manuscripts of the New Testament, and there's manuscript disagreement, and what about gospel discrepancies? Those are the things that I found coming along to actually be quite encouraging, because they all openly defy the idea of a conspiracy. If the Gospels, this is just as a textual matter, if there was a conspiracy to collude to misrepresent Jesus, they did a very bad job of it. They didn't get their stories straight enough to convince even all the critics. And I also hear scholars, on the one hand will say, well, Jesus was the divine Son of God in John, but he wasn't the divine Son of God in Mark. There's a different picture of Jesus in Mark. Well, right there you've defied your own conspiracy theory. Because if there really was this church-wide global conspiracy to misrepresent who Jesus really was, you just think they would have done a better job of it. The other thing I would say is that it misunderstands the political situation. The Da Vinci Code and all these kinds of things kind of understand that they look back into the first years of the church and they try to read back into there a medieval kind of Catholic church with political power. It's just not the case. I mean, the Christians they spent most of their time preaching the gospel and trying not to get executed. And until the legalization of Christianity, the decriminalization, then legalization, nationalization of Christianity, you don't have church councils because of some conspiracy. You don't have church councils because it just wasn't safe. And so as soon as it became safe to get together and have these church councils, they started having them. They didn't decide the canon in the 5th century, but that's when you first see the church get together and discussing these things. And they have a tremendous amount of agreement on them. And the same is true. The fact that we have manuscripts from North Africa and from Byzantium and from Caesarea and from West, and they're being translated into Latin and into all these languages. The kind of conspiracy that would be required to do something like that seems just sort of tacitly impossible to pull off by outlaw Christians in the 1st or 2nd century. And that's when it would have had to have taken place to fool us, because we have those 2nd, 3rd, 4th century manuscripts.